From playing Russian roulette on live TV to finding humor in slavery, each layer would blow your imagination of what can possibly be done on television. Tip of the iceberg. The X-Files. The X-Files is a classic show that pulls you into a world of unexplained phenomena, government conspiracies, and the paranormal. At its core, it's about two FBI agents, Fox Mulder and Dana Scully, who investigate cases that defy logical explanation. Mulder is the believer, convinced of the existence of aliens and the supernatural, while Scully, a medical doctor and skeptic, seeks scientific explanations for their cases. But here's where things get sticky. The X-Files is packed with episodes that could keep you up at night, not just because of the eerie music or the dimly lit scenes, but because of the content itself. It's the kind of show that digs into the fears we all have tucked away, the fear of the unknown, and it does so relentlessly. Episodes dealing with human experimentation, government cover-ups of alien life forms, and the manipulation of the public are frequent. It's this portrayal of a world where you can trust no one, not even the government supposed to protect you, that stirs up real anxiety.
UFO sightings may be the stuff of films and TV shows, but they keep turning up, causing controversy.
Then there's the issue of obsession. Mulder's quest, driven by the abduction of his sister by what he believes were aliens, can be seen as a cautionary tale about letting one's life be consumed by a single unprovable belief. It's a deep look into how conspiracy theories can take over someone's life, affecting their relationships and their grasp on reality. The show doesn't just stop at government conspiracies or alien abductions. It ventures into more unsettling territories with episodes that feature disturbing characters and creatures that could haunt your dreams. From inbred families to human liver-eating mutants living in the sewers, The X-Files has a knack for presenting humanity's dark side and the monsters that could be lurking just around the corner or even closer. Why should The X-Files not exist? If taken too seriously, it blurs the lines between reality and fiction, potentially feeding into a real-world paranoia and distrust in institutions. It's one thing to enjoy a good scare, but another to be left questioning every shadow or unexplained noise, wondering if there's a government plot behind it. Plus, the vivid depiction of grotesque creatures and morally grey scenarios can leave viewers feeling unsettled long after the episode ends. In essence, while The X-Files is a piece of television that has captivated audiences for years, its potential to stir up real fear and paranoia is what lands it on our iceberg. The show taps into the deep-seated fear of the unknown and the unseen in a way that's both fascinating and, frankly, a bit too effective. Married with Children. Married with Children is a sitcom that flipped the script on the ideal American family. Centered on the Bundys, a suburban Chicago family, it showcased a less-than-rosy picture of married life, far from the perfection seen in other 80s and 90s family shows. Al Bundy, a once glorious high school football player, is now a woman's shoe salesman with a love for TV and a clear disdain for his job. His wife, Peggy, is a couch potato who refuses to cook or clean. Their kids, Kelly and Bud, navigate their own misadventures, often adding to the family's dysfunction. The controversy? Married with Children pushed boundaries right from the start. It was crude, often leaning on stereotypes and sexual innuendo. The humor was sometimes seen as offensive, targeting various groups and making light of serious issues. Critics argued it perpetuated negative stereotypes, particularly regarding women and the working class. Kelly, the daughter, was frequently depicted in a demeaning light, often the butt of jokes about her intelligence and promiscuity. Al's disdain for his wife and his overtly sexist views became a staple of the show, challenging the evolving norms of the time regarding gender equality and respect in relationships.
Who would you rather spend the night with? A, your wife, or B?
B.
Now, why should it not exist? The argument could be made that it offered a cynical, sometimes harmful portrayal of family and societal values. Its reliance on shock value and offensive humor could be seen as contributing little to meaningful conversations about family dynamics, gender roles, or class struggles. Instead, it reveled in the mockery and degradation of its characters for laughs, potentially reinforcing negative stereotypes and attitudes towards women, work, and family life in its audience. In the context of today's more conscious and progressive viewing standards, Married with Children stands out as a relic of a bygone era, one that might be considered regressive in its portrayal of nearly every aspect of life it touches upon. its existence in today's landscape would likely spark even more debate about the messages we propagate through popular media and the impact they have on societal norms and values. 6 Feet Under. 6 Feet Under is a show that takes you into the lives of a family running a funeral home. Right off the bat, the setting itself isn't your usual backdrop for a TV series. It's all about death, grief, and the dark corners of human existence, making it stand out for its boldness, but also raising eyebrows. The series doesn't shy away from showing the nitty-gritty of the funeral business, alongside exploring themes of mortality and existential dread. Each episode begins with a death, setting the tone for what's to come. This constant reminder of mortality could be seen as morbid or even creepy, making some question its existence on TV. It pushes the envelope on discussing death so openly and frequently, a topic often considered taboo or uncomfortable for many. Moreover, the show frequently explores complex, often controversial moral questions without offering clear answers. While this ambiguity is part of its narrative richness, it can also leave viewers unsettled or confused about the show's stance on important issues. This approach to storytelling, which often dwells in grey areas, might not be suitable for all audiences, especially those seeking more straightforward narratives. The show also explores the supernatural, with characters having conversations with the deceased. These elements add a layer of surrealism to the narrative, blurring the lines between life and death. While this can be intriguing, it also adds to the reasons why some might find the show too eerie or strange for comfort. Adding to these reasons, 6 Feet Under includes graphic content and dark themes that push it further into controversial territory. The graphic nature of how deaths are shown, often in the opening scenes, can be disturbing. This visual rawness challenges what's considered acceptable on television, potentially alienating or traumatizing viewers. The relentless focus on death and grief, exploring the psychological impact of loss in great detail, might be seen as excessively morbid. Such a deep look into these themes without offering much respite can make the show feel heavy and overwhelming, leading some to argue it's too intense for mainstream TV. Cavemen. Cavemen is a show that really makes you wonder, what were they thinking? Born from a series of commercials, the sitcom tried to take a quirky ad campaign and stretch it into a full-fledged series. Premise: it follows the lives of 3 cavemen as they navigate modern-day Atlanta, dealing with prejudice against their kind and trying to fit into society. The idea was to use the setup as a metaphor for racism and societal acceptance, but it missed the mark by a long shot. First off, the humor falls flat. It aimed to tackle serious societal issues with a comedic twist, but ended up trivializing them instead.
It's supposed to be funny.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
The show's attempt at satire didn't cut deep enough, leaving viewers with cringeworthy moments rather than insightful commentary. It's one thing to make light of everyday struggles, it's another to do so with complex issues like discrimination, and cavemen just couldn't find the right balance. Then there's the character development, or the lack thereof. The cavemen are stereotypes rather than characters, with their personalities barely going beyond the surface level. This lack of depth makes it hard for viewers to connect or empathize with their situations, and without that connection, the show's message, whatever it was trying to convey, gets lost in translation. But the real kicker? It's the overall concept. Transforming a one-dimensional commercial gimmick into a series was a stretch. The novelty of seeing cavemen deal with modern-day problems wears off quickly, leaving the audience with a show that feels like it's trying too hard to be relevant and edgy. It's a classic case of a good idea for a short ad not scaling up to a good idea for a series. Cavemen serves as a lesson in what not to do when creating a show. It's a mix of missed opportunities, lackluster humor, and a concept that was perhaps better left in the Stone Age. The show's failure to resonate with audiences or provide meaningful commentary on the issues it tried to address is precisely why it lands on our list of TV shows that should not exist. Sometimes, just because you can make a show doesn't mean you should. Surface level. Dexter. Dexter is a show that takes you into the mind of Dexter Morgan, a Miami-based blood spatter analyst for the police department who leads a double life as a serial killer. But Dexter isn't your typical villain. He targets other murderers who've slipped through the cracks of the justice system. Sounds like a twisted form of justice, right? But here's where things get murky. The show blurs the lines between right and wrong, making viewers root for Dexter despite his gruesome hobby. It's unsettling how it makes us empathize with someone who, at his core, is a predator. This manipulation of viewer morality is one key reason why some argue Dexter should not exist. It glorifies vigilante justice, suggesting that taking the law into your own hands is not only acceptable, but heroic, provided you're targeting the right people. Moreover, Dexter goes deep into the psyche of a killer, providing a step-by-step look into how Dexter selects, stalks, and kills his victims. The detailed portrayal of these acts can be seen as a how-to guide for crime, raising concerns about its influence on impressionable viewers. The show doesn't just stop at the act of killing, it romanticizes the preparation and aftermath, turning a serial killer into a meticulous craftsman. Then there's the issue of desensitization. By wrapping Dexter's killings in a narrative of justice, the show dulls the horror of murder. Viewers get used to seeing blood, dismemberment, and death episode after episode, potentially numbing their emotional response to real-life violence. Lastly, Dexter often sidelines the emotional and psychological trauma experienced by the families of Dexter's victims and even Dexter's own loved ones. The collateral damage of Dexter's actions is overshadowed by the show's focus on his twisted moral compass and personal struggles, minimizing the real-world consequences of violence. In sum, Dexter challenges our perception of morality and justice, but not without controversy. Its graphic content, combined with the romanticization of vigilante justice, makes it a prime example of a show that treads a fine line between entertainment and ethical responsibility. True Blood. True Blood takes us to the small town of Bon Temps, Louisiana, where vampires have come out of the coffin thanks to a synthetic blood beverage that allows them to survive without feasting on humans. But it's not just about vampires trying to integrate into society. The show throws in a mix of werewolves, shapeshifters, witches, and fairies, making it a supernatural melting pot. At the heart of True Blood is Suki Stackhouse, a waitress with telepathic abilities who gets entangled in the world of the undead and supernatural. Sounds intriguing, right? But here's where things get murky. The show is steeped in graphic violence, explicit sexual content, and a sometimes troubling portrayal of relationships and consent. It doesn't shy away from showing blood-drenched scenes or diving into the darker aspects of its mythical creatures' lives. Why should True Blood not exist? For starters, the boundary-pushing graphic content often overshadows the narrative, leading to a series that feels more about shock value than storytelling. Portrayal of sexual violence and the treatment of female characters can be particularly disturbing, raising questions about the normalization of such themes in entertainment. Moreover, the sheer amount of supernatural elements can get overwhelming, diluting the initial charm of vampires coexisting with humans. The later seasons introduce plot lines that seem to stretch the show's credibility even within its fantasy setting, leading to a convoluted storyline that many fans and critics felt was unnecessary. In essence, True Blood is a cocktail of sex, violence, and supernatural chaos. While it certainly found a dedicated audience, its reliance on explicit content and controversial themes makes one wonder if pushing the envelope for the sake of it really serves the story, or if it's simply there to shock the viewers. The show's approach to sensitive topics, especially around sexual violence, is a significant point of contention, marking it as a series that perhaps should have re-evaluated its priorities in storytelling and representation. The Simpsons. The Simpsons, a staple of American TV, is known for its satirical take on a middle-class American family. But beneath its comedic surface, there's a layer of eeriness that's hard to ignore, making some argue it shouldn't exist. First, consider the episode Treehouse of Horror 5, particularly the segment The Shinning. It's a parody, sure, but its depiction of family violence, albeit in a supernatural context, pushes boundaries uncomfortably close to real issues of domestic unrest. Then there's Bart Sells His Soul, where Bart grapples with existential dread and the concept of a soul, themes that are pretty heavy for what's often considered a family show. But it's not just the themes that are unsettling. The Simpsons has a bizarre knack for predicting future events with eerie accuracy. From predicting a Trump presidency and Bart to the future, to foretelling Disney buying Fox in When You Dish Upon a Star, it's as if the show has a crystal ball. This prescience adds a layer of creepiness, making some episodes feel more like prophetic warnings than entertainment. What really tips the scale for why this show or certain episodes of the show should not exist is the episode Homer's Phobia, where the show tackles homophobia. While it aims to critique prejudice, its handling of such a sensitive topic through the lens of humor can make the message feel murky, leading to mixed interpretations about acceptance and bigotry. Fundamentally, The Simpsons operates on a level that's not just about laughs. It explores societal critique, existential questions, and uncanny predictions. These elements, while making the show intellectually stimulating, also cast a shadow over its existence. The mix of dark humor, societal critique, and eerie predictions creates a cocktail that's fascinating yet unsettling, leading some to question whether this blend of entertainment and prophecy is something that should exist at all. Eaten Alive. Eaten Alive is a TV show that sparked a massive uproar for its outrageous premise. The premise? A man, a conservationist, donning a special suit and attempting to get swallowed alive by an anaconda, all in the name of science and entertainment. The very idea raises eyebrows, doesn't it? The show was sold on the promise of showcasing this jaw-dropping stunt, leading viewers to expect an unprecedented event in television history. However, the controversy around Eaten Alive isn't just about what was promised versus what was delivered. It's about the ethics of using wildlife for such extreme entertainment. Using a giant snake to perform a stunt crosses a line for many, blurring the boundaries of animal welfare and respect for nature. The premise alone raises questions. Why would endangering a human and stressing an animal for entertainment be considered acceptable? Moreover, the backlash wasn't just from animal rights activists. Viewers felt misled. The build-up suggested they would witness a man being consumed by a snake, but the reality fell short, leading to disappointment and anger. This bait-and-switch tactic not only frustrated audiences but also detracted from any genuine conservation message the show might have intended to convey. It's one thing to explore and document nature, but it's another to manipulate it for spectacle. Such shows contribute to a distorted perception of wildlife, potentially encouraging harmful interactions between humans and animals. Eaten Alive is a prime example of a TV show that for many should not exist. It's a cautionary tale of what happens when the pursuit of ratings goes too far. The controversy surrounding the show underscores the importance of balancing human curiosity with the responsibility to protect and preserve the natural world. Middle level. South Park. South Park is a show that stirred up more than its fair share of controversy. At its core, it's an animated series that follows 4 boys in the fictional Colorado town of South Park, diving into social issues, current events, and celebrity culture with a no-holds-barred approach. Its creators, Trey Parker and Matt Stone, use crude humor and satire to push boundaries, but sometimes they push way too far.
What if I were to tell you that I think you're fat?
Take, for instance, the episode Scott Tenorman Must Die.
Oh my God! Nya, I made you eat your parents. Jesus Christ, dude.
The sheer extremeness of this plot twist not only shocked audiences but also sparked discussions on the limits of comedic storytelling. Then there's With Apologies to Jesse Jackson, an episode that addresses racial slurs.
I know it, but I don't think I should say it.
5 seconds, Mr. Marsh.
All right, I'd like to solve the puzzle.
Another episode, Trapped in the Closet, famously mocks Scientology and its celebrities, leading to a massive fallout, including threats of lawsuits and the temporary departure of voice actor Isaac Hayes, who was a Scientologist. The episode's blatant disregard for the potential repercussions of such satire exemplifies why some argue South Park's approach to sensitive subjects is irresponsibly provocative. South Park doesn't just stop at controversial topics, it revels in them, often at the expense of decency and sensitivity. Its ability to offend is unparalleled, tackling issues with a sledgehammer rather than a scalpel. Episodes like these fuel the argument that maybe South Park pushes the envelope not just for the sake of comedy, but to see how far they can go before it rips, making us question not just the show's existence, but the boundaries of satire itself. The Boondocks. The Boondocks is an animated series that takes a hard, satirical look at American society through the eyes of the Freeman family, particularly 2 young African-American brothers, Huey and Riley, who moved from the south side of Chicago to live with their granddad in a predominantly white suburb. The show is unapologetic in its exploration of race, politics, and culture, using humor and exaggeration to highlight issues that are often uncomfortable to discuss. Now on to why some argue it shouldn't exist. The Boondocks doesn't hold back. It's filled with controversial themes, explicit language, and it tackles sensitive subjects head-on. Its raw portrayal of such themes can be seen as too direct or offensive, challenging viewers' comfort zones and sparking intense debate on its appropriateness for television.
You eat it!
The show's creator, Aaron McGruder, uses it as a platform to critique society, but this critique isn't always received in the spirit intended. Episodes often feature extreme characters and scenarios that, while meant to satirize, can be misinterpreted or viewed as reinforcing the very stereotypes it aims to critique. For example, the portrayal of certain characters can be seen as overly aggressive or playing into negative stereotypes about African Americans. Moreover, The Boondocks has episodes that are so controversial they were pulled from airing or heavily edited. Its unflinching way of addressing issues like the use of the N-word, the glorification of gang culture, or the mockery of significant historical events and figures has led to backlash. These elements make The Boondocks a prime candidate for the argument that it should not exist, as its boundary-pushing content can be viewed as more harmful than educational or entertaining. Family Guy. Family Guy is an animated show that's no stranger to controversy. At its core, it's about the Griffin family navigating life in the fictional town of Quahog. But here's the twist. The humor often crosses lines, dabbling in topics from the deeply offensive to the downright bizarre. Take, for example, the episode Partial Terms of Endearment. It's a hotbed of controversy due to its flippant treatment of abortion, leading to its ban from airing on US television. The episode's cavalier approach to such a sensitive issue sparked a firestorm of criticism, showcasing the show's tendency to handle delicate subjects with a sledgehammer rather than a scalpel. Then there's Screams of Silence, the story of Brenda Q, an episode attempting to tackle domestic violence. Instead of offering insightful commentary, it's criticized for making light of the trauma and struggles faced by victims, enveloped in a layer of uncomfortable jokes that leave a sour taste. And who could forget Seahorse Seashell Party? This episode goes into the realm of psychedelic drugs, showcasing Brian's terrifying hallucinations in a manner that's more disturbing than educational or entertaining.
Just relax.
And get some rest.
The episode's casual depiction of drug use and its consequences borders on irresponsible, especially in a show that reaches a wide and varied audience. These examples scratch the surface of why Family Guy has been a magnet for criticism. By pushing boundaries in ways that many find tasteless or harmful, Family Guy has cemented its place as a show that for some should not exist. Its legacy is a testament to the fine line between edgy humor and offensive content, a line that Family Guy has frequently and controversially crossed. Honey, We're Killing the Kids. Honey, We're Killing the Kids is a reality TV show that turns parenting into a public spectacle, laying bare the dietary and lifestyle habits of families. The show revolves around experts confronting parents about how their current parenting choices are drastically affecting their children's future health and appearance. Using computer-generated imagery, the show projects how their kids might end up looking by the age of 40, considering their current lifestyle. We're talking obesity, tooth decay, and other health issues served up as a wake-up call. Now, this show belongs on the should not exist list firstly because it weaponizes fear. Imagine being a kid and seeing a digitally aged version of yourself in poor health. That's not just alarming, it's downright creepy. The show uses shock tactics under the guise of promoting healthier lifestyles, but there's a fine line between encouragement and fear-mongering. Then there's the issue of public shaming. Families are put under the microscope, criticized for their habits in front of a national audience. It's one thing to seek improvement and quite another to have your shortcomings broadcasted for entertainment. The children especially didn't sign up for this level of exposure. It's a breach of privacy that can have lasting effects on their self-esteem and public perception. Lastly, the reliance on dramatic transformations and quick fixes oversimplifies the complex journey of adopting a healthier lifestyle. Real change takes time, effort, and other professional guidance, not just a shocking glimpse into a dystopian future. Honey, We're Killing the Kids takes a concept with potential merit, encouraging healthier living, and packages it in a format that's more about shock value than genuine assistance. It preys on parental fears, subjects families to unnecessary public scrutiny, and simplifies the nuanced process of lifestyle change. All in all, the show's approach is more unsettling than educational, making it a prime candidate for the TV shows that raise the question, why does this exist? Deeper level. American Horror Story. American Horror Story, an anthology horror series, is known for pushing the envelope, but let's talk about why some argue it goes too far. Each season explores new chilling narratives, from haunted houses and witch covens to freak shows and apocalyptic scenarios. The show doesn't shy away from graphic content, including scenes of extreme violence, sexual assault, and disturbing imagery that can be deeply unsettling. Critics of American Horror Story point out that its reliance on shock value often overshadows meaningful storytelling. The series has been accused of exploiting serious issues like mental illness, addiction, and trauma for entertainment, without offering respectful representation or insight. For instance, its portrayal of historical figures and events sometimes blends fact with fiction in ways that can be misleading or insensitive. Moreover, the show's graphic content is not just about gore or horror. It ventures into areas that many believe should be handled with more care, if at all. Scenes involving sexual violence and torture are particularly contentious, with some viewers feeling that they serve more to shock than to contribute to the plot or character development. While the show has a dedicated fan base that appreciates its boldness and creativity, the argument that it might be too much isn't about prudishness or a lack of appreciation for horror. It's about questioning where we draw the line in entertainment, especially in a genre as impactful as horror, which has the power to both intrigue and disturb. 13 Reasons Why. 13 Reasons Why is a show that stirred up a lot of controversies, and for good reason. It centers around a high school student, Hannah Baker, who takes her own life and leaves behind a series of tapes explaining the 13 reasons why she did it. Each tape is dedicated to a person she believes contributed to her decision. Now, why should this show not exist? First off, it's the way it handles sensitive topics like suicide, mental health, bullying, and sexual assault. Instead of offering a careful, nuanced approach to these issues, the show often comes across as graphic and sensational. It's been accused of glorifying suicide, suggesting that Hannah's decision to end her life could be seen as a way to achieve posthumous fame and revenge. This portrayal risks sending a dangerous message to vulnerable viewers, potentially implying that suicide is a viable means to make others understand or regret their actions. Moreover, mental health professionals have raised concerns about the show's impact on teenagers. It's not just the graphic scenes of Hannah's suicide that are problematic. The show also lacks a strong emphasis on viable help or support systems for those struggling with similar issues. This omission is a big miss, considering the show's young audience. Then there's the backlash from schools and suicide prevention organizations. They've criticized 13 Reasons Why for not consulting adequately with mental health experts when depicting such a complex and delicate subject. This oversight has led to a significant outcry, with some schools even sending warning letters to parents about the show's content. Black Mirror. Black Mirror is a series that turns technology into a mirror, reflecting our darkest fears back at us. Each episode is a standalone story diving into the uneasy relationship between humanity and tech, showcasing a future that's often just a few steps ahead of our reality. It's gripping, sure, but here's why some argue it shouldn't exist. The show takes the concept of what if and cranks it to a haunting level. It's not just about gadgets and gizmos, it's about the psychological impact of our digital obsessions. From social media turning into a dystopian ranking system where your value as a person is a literal number, to a device that lets you replay your memories and your partner's, leading to obsessive and destructive behavior, the scenarios are a bit too close for comfort. Then there's the episode with a virtual reality game that's indistinguishable from reality, trapping its player in a nightmarish loop. Or the one where a digital copy of your consciousness can be tormented for eternity. These aren't just stories, they're bleak predictions of where we could be headed if we're not careful. What makes Black Mirror particularly unsettling is its plausibility. It doesn't rely on distant future or alien technology, it's about the devices in our pockets and the apps we use every day, twisted just a bit. It forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about our dependency on technology and the ethical dilemmas that come with progress. So why argue it shouldn't exist? Because it's a constant reminder of a potential future we're hurtling towards, one where our morals are compromised by convenience and our humanity is second to our avatars. It's a series that, while brilliantly crafted, leaves you questioning not just where technology is going, but at what cost to our sanity and societal fabric. Sometimes that's a reflection we're not ready to face. The Swan. A reality TV show that aired in 2004 took the concept of makeover shows to an extreme and unsettling level. At its core, the show selected women deemed ugly ducklings and subjected them to a series of plastic surgeries, dental procedures, and intense physical training for 3 months. The end goal? To compete in a beauty pageant where the winner was crowned the Swan. What sets the Swan apart, and not in a good way, is its blatant promotion of the idea that self-worth and happiness are directly tied to outward appearance. The show didn't just offer a new hairstyle or fashion advice, it pushed the narrative that major cosmetic surgery was a necessary step to becoming a better person. Participants underwent multiple surgeries, often dramatically altering their appearances, which raises ethical questions about the exploitation of their insecurities for entertainment. The psychological impact on the contestants is another major concern. The show isolated them from their families and prohibited them from seeing their reflection during the transformation process, only revealing their new selves right before the final pageant. This extreme approach to self-improvement, focusing solely on physical appearance, disregarded the emotional and mental health of the participants. It suggested that self-esteem could and should be surgically enhanced, sidelining any discussion about inner beauty or self-acceptance. The show's concept is fundamentally flawed because it equates happiness with meeting a narrow societal standard of beauty, ignoring the diverse realities of what it means to feel good about oneself. The Swan represents a troubling period in reality TV where the value of dramatic transformations overshadowed the well-being of participants, promoting a shallow and harmful notion of beauty at the expense of individual health and happiness. Shows like this, that prioritize appearance over well-being and suggest drastic measures for self-improvement, arguably should not find a place in today's more body-positive and mentally aware society. Bottom level. The Great Satan at Large. The Great Satan at Large is one of those TV shows that pushes beyond the edge of what many consider acceptable for broadcast. Aired briefly in 1993, this public access television show from Tucson, Arizona, managed to create a storm of controversy in just one episode. Hosted by a self-proclaimed Satanist, the show featured content that many found deeply offensive, including explicit discussions of satanic rituals, graphic imagery, and language that was, to put it mildly, not family-friendly.
Jesus, sweet American Jesus, I want you to take your old mama and put your...
Why should the show not exist? For starters, the explicit content went far beyond pushing the envelope. It wasn't just about challenging societal norms or questioning authority. The show reveled in shock value for the sake of shock, with little to no regard for constructive discourse or sensitivity towards viewers' diverse beliefs. The portrayal of satanic rituals and ideologies, combined with a lack of any clear educational or artistic value, made it a lightning rod for criticism. Communities were outraged, not just because of the religious implications, but due to the show's potential impact on viewers, particularly younger audiences who might stumble upon it during its late-night slot. Moreover, the show's cavalier approach to topics like violence and its visually disturbing content raised serious questions about the responsibilities of broadcasters, even on public access channels known for more lax regulations. The Great Satan at Large serves as a case study in the limits of televised content. Its existence challenged the balance between free speech and the need for content regulation to protect the public interest. While some may argue it was a form of artistic or personal expression, the overwhelmingly negative reception suggests that it crossed a line most agree shouldn't be crossed. In the landscape of television history, it's a show that many believe rightly deserves its place in the annals of content that ventured too far into the realm of the offensive and inappropriate. Heil Honey, I'm Home. Heil Honey, I'm Home is one of those TV shows that truly boggles the mind, making you wonder how it ever made it past the drawing board. The premise alone is enough to raise more than a few eyebrows. A sitcom featuring Adolf Hitler and Eva Braun living in suburban bliss next to a Jewish couple, the Goldsteins. Yes, you heard that right. This show tried to take one of history's most monstrous figures and place him in a comedic domestic setting, as if genocide could ever be a backdrop for humor. Aired briefly in 1990 before being pulled from the airwaves, the show's creators intended it as a satire, lampooning the absurdity of 1950s and 60s sitcoms by inserting a historically horrific figure into the mix. But satire requires a delicate balance, one that Heil Honey I'm Home spectacularly failed to achieve. Instead of offering incisive commentary or clever critique, it ended up trivializing the horrors of the Holocaust and the pain of millions. The very concept of making light of Hitler's life, turning him and Braun into caricatures for laughs, is deeply unsettling. It's not just in poor taste, it undermines the gravity of the atrocities committed under the Nazi regime. The episodes revolved around Hitler and Braun dealing with mundane marital spats and nosy neighbors, all while trying to keep their identity secret from the Goldsteins. The trivialization of such a figure, reducing him to a bumbling sitcom character, is a gross misstep. It's an example of how not to use comedy to tackle historical figures or events, especially those linked with such profound suffering and tragedy. It's a prime example of a TV show that not only should not exist, but also serves as a reminder of the importance of treating history with the respect and sensitivity it deserves. The controversy and swift cancellation of the show underscores the collective agreement that some things just aren't suitable for comedic fodder. The Chamber.
This is the Chamber. Once someone enters, there is no turning back. Tonight, within these steel walls, human endurance will be taken to its very limits.
The Chamber was a short-lived game show that aired in the early 2000s, and it's easy to see why it's a prime candidate for the TV shows that should not exist list. The premise was simple yet deeply unsettling. Contestants answered trivia questions while enduring extreme physical conditions inside either a hot or cold chamber. The catch? Conditions inside the chamber would become progressively more extreme as the game went on. We're talking about temperatures soaring up to 170 degrees Fahrenheit or dropping below freezing, with added effects like simulated earthquakes, wind blasts, and muscle contractors. The idea was to test not just the contestants' trivia knowledge, but their physical and mental endurance. However, the execution was as controversial as it sounds. Participants were subjected to potentially harmful conditions, raising serious questions about the ethics of such a show. It was criticized for putting contestants in danger for entertainment value, blurring the line between challenging game show and outright torture. The controversial nature of The Chamber goes beyond the mere concept of testing endurance. It's the underlying disregard for participant welfare, treating human limits as a spectacle. The show took the game show format to an extreme that many found unnecessary and cruel, making viewers uncomfortable and sparking backlash. It's a show that, in retrospect, crossed the line that should have remained untouched, making it a perfect fit for discussions on television content that ventures too far into the realm of the inhumane. Darren Brown plays Russian Roulette live.
Tonight, I shall play Russian Roulette live in this barn behind me. One gun, one bullet, and every intention of being alive at the end of the show.
Darren Brown Plays Russian Roulette Live is a TV special that aired in 2003, and it's as intense as it sounds. Picture this. Darren Brown, a well-known illusionist and mentalist, decides to take his daring acts to a whole new level by playing Russian roulette on live television. Yes, you heard that right. Live, with a real gun and real ammunition. The premise? Brown attempts to use his skills to predict which of the 6 chambers of a revolver loaded with a single bullet is safe to fire at his own head. First off, it's playing with life and death on live TV. The sheer risk involved, not just for Brown but as a message it sends to viewers, is staggering. It glorifies a dangerous act, presenting it as entertainment. There's nothing entertaining about Russian roulette. It's a game of chance with the highest stakes possible, human life. Moreover, the psychological impact on the audience, including impressionable viewers, cannot be overstated. It's a form of sensationalism that crosses ethical lines, exploiting the shock value for ratings. It's irresponsible, to say the least, for any network to put something so risky on air, regardless of the illusionist's confidence in their abilities. Lastly, the stress and anxiety it causes for viewers at home are real. People tuned in not knowing the outcome, which could have been tragic. The emotional toll of watching something that could potentially end in a fatality is immense and raises serious questions about the type of content we consume as entertainment. The Secret Diary of Desmond Pfeiffer. The Secret Diary of Desmond Pfeiffer is a show that on paper might have sounded like an innovative comedic take on historical events. However, in execution, it became a prime example of a TV show that crossed lines it shouldn't have. The series, set during the Civil War, centers around Desmond Pfeiffer, a black English nobleman who becomes Abraham Lincoln's butler. Right off the bat, the premise raises eyebrows, not for its creativity but for its questionable taste in mixing slapstick humor with one of the most tumultuous periods in American history. What makes The Secret Diary of Desmond Pfeiffer stand out for all the wrong reasons isn't just its oddball premise, but the way it handles sensitive historical contexts. The show attempts to find humor in slavery and the Civil War, topics that are deeply rooted in trauma and suffering. It's this tone-deaf approach to comedy that sparked outrage and led to protests even before the show aired. Critics and viewers alike questioned the decision to make light of such a dark chapter in history, arguing it was disrespectful and trivialized the experiences of those who suffered through those times. Moreover, the comedic elements often fell flat, with jokes missing the mark and instead coming off as crass or offensive. The portrayal of historical figures in a farcical, exaggerated manner only added to the controversy, making it seem like the show lacked any genuine respect for the period it was depicting. It was clear that The Secret Diary of Desmond Pfeiffer had not only misjudged its audience's tolerance for its brand of humor, but also underestimated the importance of handling certain subjects with care and sensitivity. In the end, the show's attempt to blend historical satire with sitcom silliness served as a lesson in what not to do when creating television content. Its short run and quick disappearance from the airwaves serve as a testament to its failure to connect with viewers on any meaningful level, cementing its place as a TV show that frankly should not exist. Its legacy, if it can be called that, is a reminder of the importance of context, sensitivity, and respect when tackling historical subjects, especially those as charged as slavery and the Civil War. And there you have it, a journey through the murky depths of television history, exploring shows that for various reasons have raised eyebrows, sparked controversy, or simply left us questioning their existence. From misguided concepts to outright offensive content, we've seen how the pursuit of entertainment can sometimes veer off course, leaving a trail of bewildered audiences and critical backlash in its wake. Thanks for joining us on this exploration of TV shows that perhaps should not exist. Until next time, keep watching, but maybe, just maybe, choose your shows wisely.